Greetings, Rebel fans. My name is Jason Kelly. This is the Let's Run podcast. Welcome to the post game show. I do not have time to do a show tomorrow night, and so I need to get a show up for our listeners that listen on Substack and listen later. There's also listeners on YouTube, and so I want to make sure that the whole audience gets a post game reaction. I'm sure some of you probably listened to the Burner Brigade, listened to that. It was a bit heavy. I feel I should say that, I'm as frustrated as any of you, with the program and the state of the program. I'm as frustrated as I've ever been. That was about as demoralizing of a game as I have ever seen as a UNLV fan. UNLV absolutely does. Kevin Kruger and the Rebels and really the program deserve almost all of the shade and the criticism and the anger that is directed at them tonight. It's justified. There are a couple things that aren't justified. I wouldn't. Please keep your cool and composure and calm and composure. This situation will play itself out. There's no reason to send threats to anybody. There's no reason to there's no reason to cross any lines. Be critical, but don't go too far. Tonight I was at the Thomas and Mack. When we pulled up, I thought that the crowd would be okay. I thought that the parking lot was relatively full. And I really genuinely did think that there was a pretty good chance that the crowd would be our best home crowd of the yeah, okay. So Banana Man says, cut out at the end, but my point was, why are they playing Julian Rishwain so much? And he can't play defense and he can't shoot half the time. Yeah, I think they're playing Julian Rishwain because nobody was generating any downhill momentum towards the basket. And so Rishwain, at least he has the threat of a shot. I disagree with the rotation. I think that it's, I disagree with the roster. I got to be honest with you. I think that there are just fundamental issues with the roster that aren't going to be fixed very quickly and are going to keep this team from being respectable. So UNLV falls to Wyoming 63-61. UNLV was around an 80% favorite according to Ken Pom coming into the game. They were projected to win 72-63. Going over the stats, we have DJ Thomas. He finishes with 17 points, 6 of 14 from 2, 1 of 3 from 3. Jaden Henley, 3 of 5 from 2, 1 of 5 from 3. Jalen Hill, again, didn't really shoot a ton. He only shot 3 times, but he was 2 of 2 from 3. Really not enough Jalen Hill in this offense. Julian Rishwain finishes 1 of 2 from 2 and 0 of 3 from 3. Pop, not a ton of minutes tonight, only 1 shot attempt. He did miss it. Bear Cherry, just a putrid performance from Bear Cherry. He finishes with 10 points, 9 rebounds. If Bear, I think that the coaching staff at this point has to be in the mentality that if Bear turns the ball over once, or if he dribbles more than twice, starts doing his little shifting of his feet underneath the rim, Bear can't be on the court. Brooklyn Hicks, only 16 minutes tonight. Brooklyn Hicks has been our number one source of energy, has been the number one guy that's brought consistent energy to this team, and yet only 16 minutes. It was just, I don't get the minutes from Brooklyn Hicks. I mean, he's for sure gone this year because the way Kruger treats him, the leash that he puts Brooklyn Hicks on, I think is preposterous. I don't like it. I don't like the way he's coaching this. Jalen Bedford finishes with 7 points, 2 of 4 from 2, 1 of 4 from 3. Bear Cherry taking 12 shots is just ridiculous. Why are we wasting possessions on this guy? I get that Bear Cherry has the size and the talent and the ability really to score at ease with skill, but Bear Cherry he hasn't proven that he can do it. And yet we still keep going. He got benched today. Coach started Pop. Bear Cherry can't play. If he's gonna shoot, he can't play. If he's gonna shuffle his feet down at the paint, he can't play. We're just wasting possessions. And we took, and the thing is, this Wyoming team that we were playing against was trying to keep that game as low as possible in terms of number of possessions. UNLV, really up until the last hectic couple of minutes, UNLV really only had 20 possessions in that second half. And we're wasting them with bare cherry post ups. We're wasting them with pop 3-point attempts. We're wasting them consistently. And I don't know. I just maybe the roster just isn't there. But you see a team go into Viejas and convincingly beat San Diego State, and then put up this pumpkin of a performance. It's hard to understand. It's hard to understand why he couldn't get his guys ready to play. I don't want to hear anything about, oh, well, they stormed back and just barely came up short. There's no, there's nothing positive to take away from this game. It's a putrid and pathetic performance. I actually thought the players played pretty hard in the first half, and through the first part of the second half before falling apart. Yeah, like, why are we giving Bear all these chances, when we're not giving Brooklyn Hicks chances, a guy who plays with, that's what I don't understand. We're giving Bear 14 shots, and a guy like Brooklyn Hicks can only get 13 minutes. Now, Brooklyn did have some braces on his knees, and so I wonder if there's injury concerns going on. I'm not 100% sure, but we're just wasting possessions. It felt like Wyoming had a game plan, and Wyoming's game plan was, make UNLV do a certain thing. And UNLV's game plan was to follow Wyoming's game plan. This is something I talked about in the Burner Brigade show, but a big thing that was going on was UNLV was doubling the post, and they were hedging really high. And what this was doing was it was giving open 3-point shots to the Wyoming players. Now, Wyoming they're a good 3-point shooting team. They're not spectacular. They're certainly above average. But the result was Obi Agbin, 5 of 9 from 3. Mattia Belic, I don't know how to say his name, but he hit 2 threes. Dante Allen, he hit 2 threes. Jordan Nesbitt was 3 of 4 from threes. I mean, Wyoming walks out of the Thomas and Mack hitting 14 of 28 threes, 50%. And UNLV was giving them wide open threes. And so I understand. Yeah, and to be fair, like, Bear is a good defensive player as well. And that's, he has been struggling with boards up until this point, but like, Coach Kruger just has to tell him, like, I want you to play, but I can't have you posting up this often. And it feels like it was by design, almost like the players, Bear was happy to take those shots, and happy to post up, but he just, he just wasn't efficient. It didn't feel like a team with a defined game plan. It looked like a team that was hoping to squeak out a win, and then move on to New Mexico. It was an embarrassing performance. Luckily, the city of Las Vegas can see through Kevin Kruger. They know that he's a bad coach, a mediocre coach at best, and a bad coach usually. And they don't trust this team or this program with their time or their money. And that's sad, because I want people in Las Vegas to trust UNLV with their time and their money. I want people to come to these games. We got 40,000 people twice at UNLV football games. We're sitting in the Thomas and Mack with 3,000 people tonight, and a bunch of angry diehard fans. There's not very many of us, but the ones that are there are diehard, and we're angry. We're not okay with this. If you are seeing, I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but if you are seeing tonight a tweet that looks like a tweet from the team saying that Kevin Kruger has been fired, that is a troll account. Do not trust it. He's not going to get fired midseason. That's not going to happen. This athletic director and this administration, this cheapskate administration, if you ask me, does not want to pay Kevin Kruger to sit at home and not coach. Kevin Kruger's a good guy. He's a lifelong rebel, an ex-player, and a nice man, and I don't think that we're going to fire him midseason, because there's nobody on the bench that anybody else wants to see be the head coach either. Although, to be fair, if I found out tomorrow morning that the school had fired Kevin Kruger and hired Barrett Peary to be their head coach, their interim coach, I would be incredibly happy about that. It seems in games that are disasters. I felt this way in the Southern game. I felt this way I felt this way several times. And actually, this is a criticism that I heard about Dave Rice a lot too. It seems like Kruger doesn't keep his composure, doesn't keep calm and collected and deliberate with his decision making. It seems like he freezes. That's the impression that I get watching him live. Um, and it's really frustrating. I think that he has talent as a coach, but I don't believe that that is as a head coach. And inconsistency is the issue. Good coaches are consistent. Bad coaches aren't. And look, San Diego State was not supposed to lose to us at home. Even good coaches lose games that they shouldn't lose sometimes. But the issue is the frequency. San Diego State has two home losses, or two quad three losses in the last like 5 or 6 years, both to UNLV actually on their home court. But they don't lose those games very often. Twice. UNLV has two quad. This is their first truly bad loss of the year in terms of metrics. But UNLV had what, 4 last year. They had a few in Kevin's second year. They had a couple in Kevin's first year. I mean, consistently, we're losing games at the Thomas and Mack. Yeah, and I think that DJ. So here's a few questions about DJ. DJ is smart. Why does he keep feeding him? He does realize that half his possessions are turnovers or short hooks or happy feet. Only bright side for Bear is that he's technically a freshman, maybe based on JUCO rules. So I don't believe that. Just to clarify, I do not believe that Bear Cherry qualifies for additional eligibility under the current JUCO extension. Now he might eventually. There might be a rule that gives him extra eligibility, but the JUCO extension that the NCAA did was only for players that had played in JUCO that were seniors this year. Bear is actually a junior, so he's not a senior. And I don't expect him to, he's not going to get extra eligibility based on the rules as they exist right now. Now, may he in the future? Absolutely. But as of right now, Bear is a junior and he's not a freshman. He's not going to get 2 years of extra eligibility based on the JUCO rules. In fact, he's not even a sophomore. He doesn't even qualify for an extra year. DJ needs to accept that he's going to be the playmaker sometimes and not the true scorer. That's for Bedford or even Henley. This is what I'll say, Banana Man. Great fan. Appreciate your contribution to the Burner Brigade. DJ is doing what the coaches are telling him to do. The coaches are telling DJ to take over games and to, not be selfish, but to be, to take all the shots at the end of the games. And for good reason. DJ's the best player and he is capable. I think he is capable. I believe DJ has had, it's actually kind of remarkable. He's had like 7 or 8 opportunities at the buzzer, most of which have been really good looks. Now, DJ's a clutch player. I don't want to act like DJ's not a clutch player. But DJ's had like 7 or 8 opportunities at the buzzer, including this was his second one this year. He had one against St. Mary's last year. He's had a bunch of opportunities to kind of win games or tie games at the buzzer, and he's 0 for 8 or something. However, he has hit a lot of big shots in other circumstances, earlier in the game, with a minute to go or something. But DJ's doing what the coaches are telling him to do. This is what the coaches told Bryce, EJ Harkless to do. This is what the coaches told DJ to do last year. This is what the coaches told Bryce Hamilton to do. DJ's doing what he's told. If DJ's being selfish and taking shots at the end of games, if you think that that's what he's doing, it's not him. It's what the coaches want him to do. And look, I think that's probably the right decision in the last minute. I think that's probably the right decision for DJ to take, last second shots. I genuinely believe that. But it does seem like the team is not confident in its game plan when things aren't going well. And yeah, I mean, Bedford's a good player too. I think this team has talent. Now the roster is imbalanced. There's not a good post player. Losing Rob Whaley hurts in that. Rob was supposed to be a Rob Bear front court that kind of replicated the Rob Caleb front court of last year. And that didn't happen. Unfortunately, injuries are a part of college basketball. SDSU is missing their second best player. It just happens. Nobody's going to give Kevin Kruger a cookie because he lost his second best player. That's just a fact and reality of college basketball. And it's not, you don't get any grace for that. Sorry, I know Rob being out hurts, doesn't matter. Almost 100% roster turnover at the end of the year, regardless of coach change or not. It's the Kevin Kruger identity. This year, actually, we had a lot of, if you compare this year's roster to last year's roster, we did have some continuity. We returned three important players, Brooklyn, DJ, and Rob. Rob obviously got hurt, but the issue was, Kevin Kruger didn't replace Keelan Boone and didn't replace Luis Rodriguez. And Rob going down and Bear just isn't as good as we thought he was going to be. That's a big issue. And so, what does this mean for the Mountain West race? Well, UNLV was probably going to lose a game that they shouldn't have lost. That was always going to happen. They to this point haven't really lost games they should have won this season. Every year it happens. This was the game it happened. It was, a good Wyoming performance. Again, you have to give Wyoming credit for that performance. They did hit the shots when it mattered most. But this game doesn't fundamentally change. This game doesn't fundamentally change anything about the season, honestly, because we were never going to be that. Okay, Caleb's asking. Sorry, I guess I'll finish this point, but we were never going to be the team that competed for a Mountain West championship. This team doesn't play consistently well enough to do that. Kevin Kruger doesn't coach consistently well enough to do that. It just doesn't happen. This was never going to happen, And so UNLV escapes a game that we probably should have lost against Utah State. We lose a game that we should have won against Wyoming. We're going to continue to probably pick off good teams unless the players quit on Kevin Kruger. There is a scenario where the players quit. And unless the players just decide they're done with Kevin Kruger and they don't seem to like him, which by all accounts, the players do seem to like Kevin Kruger. Sin City Sports asks, I don't see how UNLV basketball can get back on their feet and get the good graces with fans now that Vegas is getting more sports team. Thomas and Mack being so empty looks like a Division II school. So Sin City, I see this point made a lot about UNLV basketball. It's impossible for them to get back to where they were. And what I would say to that, Sin City Sports, is that you have to understand how bad UNLV football was. UNLV, the Thomas and Mack Arena is sort of a pro style arena. Now, look, it's not T-Mobile. It's not an NBA arena. I'm not trying to make that, but it is used for NBA events. It is the home of Team USA when they're training. And so the Thomas and Mack does have, and because of its location and its size, it certainly has a level of cachet. So, look at what UNLV football did. Look at what Barry Odom did with that football program, and what Dan Mullen is going to continue. Certainly, that program was in a much worse space before Barry Odom than even this basketball program is now under Kevin Kruger. Marcus Arroyo was a joke of a head coach. He was not good. Tony Sanchez, I appreciate Tony Sanchez and his work as the football coach, especially in getting the Fertitta football complex built. UNLV football is not in the position it is without Tony Sanchez, but he was not a good coach. And UNLV had been, as a football program, the laughing stock of college football for 40 plus years, 50 plus years, 60 plus years, maybe. And in 2 years, it took a year. It took bringing back good players, but we had 2 games with over 40,000 people in attendance at Allegiant Stadium. And so I just reject the notion that because of the incoming sports teams that UNLV basketball can't get back to a good place. But when it's been 12 years since this program has been relevant in the city of Las Vegas, 12, and they continue to lose games like this to Wyoming, it's just not going to happen until this program makes the NCAA tournament. How can UNLV basketball get back on its feet? They just have to hire the right coach. They've made 5 or 4 bad hires in a row, kind of 5, honestly. Chris Beard in 2016, after, firing Dave Rice midseason, bad decision firing Dave Rice midseason, classless move. That was a bad decision. And they hire Chris Beard, who's a wife beater, a domestic abuser. And he ditches for Texas Tech within 2 weeks. Not a good hire. Then they hired Marvin Menzies, not a good hire. Now, their options were limited when Marvin Menzies became the coach, but it still wasn't a good hire. Then they hired TJ Otzelberger, not a good hire. TJ Otzelberger might be a Final Four caliber coach, but as a coach at UNLV, he was a bad hire because he didn't want to be here. And because UNLV didn't seem ready for the scenario of TJ Otzelberger leaving for Iowa. Then they think they're being smart and they hire Kevin Kruger. They think they're saving a buck. They got a little bit of a windfall when TJ Otzelberger was removed from the UNLV as the head coach, and they thought they were going to save some money and be smart and build a long time, the base of a program, like they had done with Lon Kruger. The difference is Lon Kruger had experience before he came to UNLV and had some cachet, whereas Kevin Kruger didn't. Kevin Kruger had been an assistant for 4 years, I believe, and he's a nice guy. He's an ex-Rebel player. He's certainly somebody that deserves, at least some respect and some gratefulness, some thankfulness from Rebel fans for the things that he did before he was the head coach at UNLV and even when he was an assistant coach at UNLV. But it was a bad hire. He's not the right guy. And it's obvious that he's not the right guy. It's been obvious that he's not the right guy basically from his second year on. His first year, you can make some excuses. It's the first year, but the minute that team fell apart defensively, his second year, he wasn't the right guy. He's missed out on a lot of big recruits. I mean, he got DJ, but one small point guard isn't enough to, at least not DJ, is not enough to change the fortunes of your whole program. DJ would have been a great building piece. I mean, DJ would have been like the Caton Reinhardt of one of the Dave Rice teams, just like another great recruit that's going to add a lot to the team, but not going to change everything. But all they got to do is hire a good coach. That's all it's going to take. They got to hire a good coach. And, if a coach leaves again, the reason why we were so unlucky with TJ Otzelberger is that he had a losing record at UNLV and was still hired away. That usually doesn't happen. Usually you only get coaches hired away if the coach has success. I mean, TJ Otzelberger didn't have success at UNLV and he was still hired away regardless. And so all they got to do is hire a good coach. It doesn't matter if that coach leaves for a year, after a year or two. They need one good hire. One. That's it. So can UNLV get back to being a ticket in town? Yes. Are they going to get back to the 90s and 80s? Obviously not. No. They're not going to sell out the Thomas and Mack consistently. That's not going to happen. But can they get back to the place that they were under Dave Rice? Dave Rice's first 2 years, a tournament team that wins all its home games and does a good job and recruits well. Yeah, they can get back to that. For Rob, do I think he transfers? Absolutely. There is a scenario where Rob can stay if Rob did get engaged. He's getting married to a girl who I think's from Vegas. I'm not actually. She might be from Michigan. I'm not sure where she's from. But there could be a scenario where they both graduate and then go someplace together, and Rob transfers. Do I think he transfers? Yeah, probably. Especially if Kevin Kruger's gone. DJ's likely gone. I don't see Rob sticking around. I do love Rob. I think he's a great player. I wish he could have played this year. I know he wants to play this year, but ultimately he didn't. Last season, I heard a rumor that Kruger lost the locker room. Whole new roster this year, but it's reflective of what could be going on this year. I don't see this team being lost. I just don't think that, one, they're not good enough to overcome a mediocre coach. The roster's incomplete. The roster's unbalanced. It's relying too much on a 6'1" point guard. I don't think they're good enough to overcome a bad coach. The roster is not terrible, but it's not spectacular. I don't think that Kevin Kruger has lost the locker room. I just don't think that he knows how to get the most out of the locker room. And I think the guys like him because he's likable. Kevin Kruger is a nice guy. But I don't think he's lost the locker room at all. I think he'll probably get his guys to play hard again. We'll probably snipe off some other teams for the rest of the season. This night will probably be forgotten about. But it is indicative of what this program is under him. I think once everyone leaves the Mountain West, we'll have a shot at the tournament. That'll bring us attention and talent level us up. Well, the issue with that is, UNLV, for example, would recruit a lot better and do a lot better in the Big 12. Would their chances of making the tournament go down in the Big 12? If they had bad coaches, yes, but when you're in a better conference, you recruit better. Um, you have better access to the tournament because you get to play better teams consistently. Teams that play better teams, higher quality teams, they make the tournament more often than teams that play a bunch of cupcakes. Um, in this new Mountain West, UNLV is still going to be playing programs that can beat them. New Mexico can certainly beat UNLV. Reno can certainly beat UNLV. Wyoming obviously can beat UNLV, but they're not going to be in as good of a conference as they're in right now. They're losing games against San Diego State. They're losing games against Boise State and Colorado State. Those are good programs. The new Pac-12 will be a very good basketball program, basketball conference with Gonzaga. Um, I don't think that UNLV staying in the Mountain West increases their chances of making the NCAA tournament because it gets rid of a lot of the good winning opportunities that they have. If UNLV wanted to be a full basketball school, joining the Pac would be an absolute no-brainer. But it seems like UNLV is focusing on football. You can't blame them for that. I don't think they'll abandon basketball completely, but DJ was coming with or without Kruger. It's impossible to credit that to him. Kruger did have a huge head start on DJ because of DJ's dad, because of Didon Senior. So I think there's a world where Kevin Kruger stays with the program and lets another guy take the reins. It doesn't seem in his best interest to walk away from home and go crouch. Crouch, coach in the Big Sky or something. Kevin Kruger's best route is to be an assistant coach at a power school. As a head coach with a winning record, and I actually think Kevin Kruger's a good assistant coach. I think he adds a steadiness and a relatability to players. I think he could add, he has experience now. This is his fourth year. It's not like he's a first-year greeny head coach anymore. I think he could be pretty valuable to a school that needs a good assistant coach. So he's an okay recruiter, not a great recruiter. He's an okay recruiter. He's fine. I think there's going to be a Power 5 program, or at least a Mountain West level program or Pac-12 level program that'll take Kevin Kruger on as an assistant coach. So where do the Rebels go from here? Well, let's look at their schedule. I'm going to present this. Share screen here. Boo-boo. All right, so let's look at UNLV's schedule. These are the stats for the game. If you want to see something depressing, these are the winning. This is the winning percentage for the game. UNLV was heavily favored this whole time. They were up 4 twice in this game with chances to kind of ice the game and put it away, but ultimately Wyoming did end up taking the advantage here. So let's take a look at UNLV's schedule here. This is their KenPom page. They play New Mexico at home. That's projected as a loss. They dropped to 99. They were 97 going into the night. They dropped to 99. They're playing New Mexico at home. That's a game I would favor the Rebels in. I think UNLV is going to win that game. Their next game is at Utah State. Could they beat Utah State? Maybe, but I would put it. There's a good chance that they don't. You could see the Rebels go on a four on a 4-loss streak here, losing to Wyoming, New Mexico, Utah State, and Reno. Then they come home to play Boise State at home. I don't think the Rebels are going to beat Boise State this year. I think Boise State matches up well against them. I think Boise State's really well coached and has a roster that's just going to give the Rebels too many problems. So I do envision the Rebels starting a 5-game losing streak here. I think they'll probably go beat Wyoming in Wyoming, give this team another chance against Wyoming. I think they'll probably win that, so that will snap their 5-game losing streak. They'll beat Air Force. Air Force sucks. They'll beat Fresno. Fresno sucks. It has UNLV beating Colorado State at home right now. I don't know about that. But what I see basically for the rest of this, I think they're going to lose to New Mexico away this year. I think they're going to lose to San Diego State at home. I see something along the lines of a 8-12 Mountain West season at the worst and a 12-8 Mountain West season at the best, which will put them in that 5 or 6 range, depending on tiebreakers. Certainly, it's not great. And then I see Kevin Kruger, he's going to get a first-round matchup, probably as the 6th seed or the 7th seed against either Air Force or Fresno State. They'll probably win that game and then go to the quarterfinals and lose to whoever they play. And then we'll probably hear about 24 hours later that Kevin Kruger has been let go as the head coach. That's how I think the season's going to go. It's unfortunate. I'm done with him. I think he's a bad coach. I don't care if he goes and he beats New Mexico and he beats and he beats Boise State and he beats I don't trust him. I don't trust him. An NIT bid is not going to do it for me this year. Say UNLV goes in they're not in NIT contention right now. They just don't have enough good wins. And this is a bad loss. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt them in terms of trying to make the NIT. But UNLV is probably going to rally a little bit. They're probably going to steal a game or two. They shouldn't steal. They'll probably lose at least one more. They shouldn't lose. But I don't see any scenario where this guy's our head coach for much longer. And that's kind of sad because Kevin Kruger working out and being a great UNLV head coach, that would have been great. I think Kevin Kruger would have stayed around for a long time. I think he would have been, a guy like Leon Rice maybe in Boise that sticks around one place for a long time in his career. But I don't see that happening. In fact, I know it's not going to happen because he would have shown something by now. It's a sad night, guys. I mean, it's a sad night. It's a little crushing. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I think this program has potential. Um, Vegas Guitar says, "I wish he could have been more like his dad." Yeah, me too. You know, so does Bronny James. So does Michael Jordan's son. I think wasn't very good at basketball. He was okay. There's a lot of times in history where a son is not as good as his dad. I don't think Charlie Woods is going to be Tiger Woods, and Kevin Kruger is certainly no Lon Kruger. Does that mean he's bad, at coaching basketball? Maybe as a head coach, yes, but maybe in another capacity, no. There's not that many great head coaches in the world, and there's no, it doesn't make him a failure of a person. And I hope that, we can be critical of him, but I hope that we can do it with a level of grace. Yeah, I mean, we got to 290 live viewers in this live stream. That's pretty remarkable. Just because we have so many people listening, I guess I'll say a couple of the name that I would love to go after is Russell Turner. He's my favorite coach. That the Rebels could target. We obviously unloaded the Brinks truck for Dan Mullen. And so, obviously a lot of our money is going, to football at the moment. But yeah, that's the guy that I would go after. We have Larry, who I think is a New Mexico fan. Why is UNLV always bringing their A game against UNM? They are a good team. Yeah, UNLV in New Mexico, sometimes there's two programs that just have a rhythm against each other. Does that mean that UNLV won't get swept by New Mexico this year? No, I mean, UNLV could absolutely lose to New Mexico both times, but there does seem to be something about UNLV and New Mexico where UNLV just plays better against New Mexico than they do against other Mountain West teams. And I think that there's a good chance that UNLV beats New Mexico on Saturday. In fact, like I said, I would favor UNLV over New Mexico this Saturday. Can I explain why? I mean, they beat Utah State. UNLV went on the road to Viejas and won. They clearly can compete with good teams. They just don't do it consistently. So I actually feel better about UNLV playing at the Pit than I do at the Thomas and Mack, to be honest with you, because the Thomas and Mack being as empty as it is, it's depressing, to be honest with you, seeing all those empty red seats in an arena that when I grew up was full, almost completely full, consistently. It's depressing. And so I think that UNLV plays a little bit better in arenas that are full of excited fans, even if those fans are against them. And I don't know, the crowd at the Thomas and Mack is amongst the most bitter, angry, including myself, by the way. I'm at the game. My dad tells me consistently to shut up and get over it, because I'm yelling, and I'm not very far from the bench either, so they can probably hear me. But the crowd at the Thomas and Mack is truly one of the most angry sports crowds that I've ever seen. They're smart. They know basketball. The people that are still coming to this game love the Rebels. And like the crowd at the Thomas and Mack just is brutal. They're kind of quiet because they're frustrated with the state of the program, but they keep coming because they love basketball and they love the Rebels. And so I kind of think, and there's old people. I actually think New Mexico and UNLV fans, there's a lot in common there. There's just a lot more New Mexico fans that go to their games. And so, why does UNLV always play good against New Mexico? I couldn't explain it completely to you, but sometimes one program just plays well against another program. I think that San Jose, for example, also plays pretty well against New Mexico consistently, which is something that doesn't make a ton of sense because San Jose is a program that is not nearly as talented as New Mexico. But yeah, I guess we'll see on Saturday. It's not a game that I'm going to be at. I do have a family event that I will be attending during the game that I cannot miss, sadly. So I will not be at that game. I'm bummed about it, but it was something that, family comes first. Can't miss it. So um, I guess we'll see, guys. I guess we'll see. I'll give a quick power ranking of all the Mountain West schools at the moment. I think Utah State's clearly the best team in the conference. I think that New Mexico is clearly the second best team in the conference. I think that Colorado State is probably third ranked right now. Let me pull up the standings real quick just because I want to make sure that I get the standings correct. All right. So for the Mountain West, I have Utah State 1, New Mexico 2, probably Boise State 3, and San Diego State 4. I have UNLV, or Colorado State 5, UNLV 6, Wyoming 7, and then the bottom team, or I guess Wyoming is number 8, and then Reno would be number 7. And then the bottom 3 teams, you can kind of, they can kind of, be interchanged pretty frequently. Or like a JUCO team. Yeah, they are very similar, UNLV and New Mexico. I just think Richard Pitino is a slightly better coach than Kevin Kruger. I actually don't think Richard Pitino is that great of a coach, but he's better than Kevin Kruger. I think he recruits a little bit better than Kevin Kruger, and the support I think just helps a lot with New Mexico, giving them a true home court advantage. It doesn't take a lot to get that New Mexico fan base riled up, whereas with UNLV it takes a lot more. So guys, I want to thank you all for jumping on the show tonight. We did hit over 300 people, which is a good achievement, especially because this is our second post-game show. But guys, just keep your family close, love them, go to games, enjoy the Rebels. We only get these guys once a year. We're going to there's a limited number of games that we get to go to. One game to Wyoming doesn't mean that we have to not like the Rebels anymore. We can still love the Rebels. We can still support them. We can still like the players. I still like basically everybody on this team. There's no player that I dislike. It doesn't mean we have to give up. We don't have to give up. We can be good. We can be good fans. We can support. And so, just keep on keeping on. UNLV football is in a great place right now. Dan Mullen is doing incredible things. The guys that he's recruiting, we got a Mississippi State running back. I envision another Ohio State transfer coming soon. That's not sourced or anything. I think that, with Ohio State officially ending their season, there could be a scenario where we could see an Ohio State player come. And I think Dan Mullen is setting an identity for that program that's going to be really fun to watch. And I can't wait to cover it on the Let's Run podcast. So guys, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Again, this was a big live stream. I appreciate you all. I will be going live. The spring showcase should be fun. UNLV football is in a great space. Rebel fans, it's not like we're in complete despair. We do have a great football program that ended number 23 in the country in the final AP ranking. Things are okay. Things are going to be okay. We'll get this guy away we'll get this coach away from our program pretty soon. And if he proves us wrong and makes the NCAA tournament, then we'll give him a year or two extension and we'll see how he does. But that's what it's going to take. You got to make the tournament. You got to win the Mountain West Conference tournament. I'll believe it when I see it. Appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night. I am tired. I'm going to get to bed. But let's run, Rebels. See you guys, and make sure the people that you love know that you love them. Peace out.